Hey, good evening, and welcome to the Corporate and Performance Overview and Scrutiny panel this evening. Just to announce, just a few housekeeping to begin with. We're not expecting a fire alarm, but if we do, we exit through the doors over there and head up the main car park to the meeting point, the assembly point. Apologies this evening. We have 3 apologies. Councillor King has been substituted by Councillor Mrs Page. Councillor Foreman has been substituted by Councillor Taylor, and Councillor Rickman has been substituted by Councillor Moder.
Goes into Democratic Services, and she said that he wouldn't be sent his apologies, but you haven't received it.
I've not received it, no.
So, I was just told that he had sent an email.
Okay, so. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Scott. Right. Item 2 on the agenda, following the apologies for absence, is the declaration of members' interest. Does any member have any declarations that they need to make the panel aware of? No? Okay. So that brings us on to the minutes from the last meeting on 19th of June. Hopefully members have had a chance to read those minutes and check the validity of them. Does any members have any comments about the minutes? Does anybody like to propose that they are a true reflection of the meeting? Thank you, Councillor Gare. Do we have a seconder? No, I know. Councillor Taylor, you were there, Councillor Taylor, I think. Right. You were? That's on the minutes. Yeah. Okay, so we have a first and a seconder. Okay, so if we could take a vote on that. I believe they were a true reflection, yes. Okay, yes. Okay, thank you.
Chair, may I ask a question just before we continue?
Yeah.
I think we've all got this piece of paper in front of us that comes without a title. At some point, could you just mention what it is, please, and where it references?
Yes,
thank you.
It is relation to the Corporate and Performance Overview and Scrutiny Panel work plan, so that we can have an idea of what items are coming up to Cabinet, so that can inform our work plan moving forwards. So when we get to item number 8 on the agenda.
So it's if I put an 8, yeah, if they could be titled from now on, I'd be very grateful, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so item 4 on the agenda, we have an update from Councillor Woodywis on the climate change and neighbourhood services. It is page 13 in your packs. I'll pass over to Councillor Woodywis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. So obviously this covers a number of subheadings. So under regulatory services, we've had an issue at the Freemasons Public House. The council has been receiving noise complaints from amplified music played outside the pub for several years, including live bands. Despite efforts to try and work with the pub, the noise continued to cause nuisance to local residents, and earlier this year the council's investigation resulted in the service of an abatement notice. This notice was later appealed in the court. However, the council were able to defend their position, and this resulted in a court order placing stringent conditions on the pub by way of stopping live bands and controlling amplified music by way of a noise limit, as well as requiring the installation of a new directional speaker system. The licence was also called in by the local resident, and the licensing panel has agreed to place these same conditions onto the licence. The pub have now purchased a new speaker system and noise limiting device, which the council has been out to test, and since installation, the noise levels are much improved and the majority of the local residents are much happier than before. Some of you may have heard about the animal byproduct in a trailer on the A426. On Tuesday, the 2nd of September, officers attended a lay-by on the A426 at Coute de Val to respond to reports of an abandoned lorry trailer. The trailer was reported to be emitting a strong odour and there was concern as to the contents. Upon examination, the lorry is found to contain approximately 25 tonnes of rotting animal byproducts, chicken skin and offcuts. The police attended but did not feel they needed to take any action. A multi-agency meeting took place later in the day and the Leicestershire County Council Trading Standards confirmed they would serve a notice requiring the waste to be correctly disposed of by the owner. It was confirmed that the lorry was emptied and removed on Wednesday the 3rd. A report has been made to the Food Standards Food Crime Division as a precaution, and they have confirmed they will be contacting the owner of the product, a slaughterhouse in Hemel Hempstead, to make inquiries about the circumstances. Car parking. So work continues on the installation of the new parking payment machines across the district, and these are due to be installed during the autumn. Following the close of the public consultation period, the responses to the new draft car parking strategy are currently being analysed, and amendments will be made. Environmental services. Our fleet of brand new refuse and recycling vehicles has now been ordered following procurement. These will be arriving in phases over the course of the next year. A new trade waste database has been successfully installed, and this has replaced the old Access database and uses the white space system, which we use for domestic fleet management. With this, it brings in line both systems, allowing for the system to be fully electronic and is supported by the company. Work continues on the improvement and upgrade to our parks and open spaces, with a new Friendship Park recently opened, a new petanque facilities available, tiny forests planted, and the forthcoming improvements to Welland Park tennis courts and path. A refurbishment of the dog walk is also scheduled shortly. The procurement is now underway for a new environmental services contract from April 2027 to cover all aspects, including refuse and recycling collections, green waste collections, trade waste collections, ground maintenance and street cleansing. Work is in full swing with a suite of 24 documents being compiled by the team, along with WSP consultant, external legal and Welland procurement. The first key deadline for this is the 29th of September, and the team is working hard to achieve these tight deadlines. The council will be required to have a food waste service in place by 2026. The fleet of vehicles should arrive around September 2026, and a full project plan is being worked on. Community safety events. The team are carrying out visits to villages and setting up the community safety van. Locations include Slawston, Lutterworth, Broughton Astley, Thurmby, Market Harbour, to name a few. The nighttime economy. Local police have increased the number of officers on high visibility patrol during the weekends, and the nighttime economy is part of a project called Safer Streets Summer. No reports of issues arising from venues have been made to the licensing. We are looking to arrange a joint operation for both taxis and NTE venues in the very near future. Climate change, Warm Homes Grant. The Warm Homes Local Grant will be starting late in 25. The plan is to continue delivering through Green Living Leicestershire, and further details will be available in due course. EV charging. The procurement of the EV charging hubs is completed, and we look forward to providing details on the installation dates as soon as we have them. Climate and nature emergency. The Climate and Nature Emergency Annual Report data is being collated, and a draft report will arrive by late September. And that concludes my update.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Can I ask any councillors if they have got any questions? Councillor Moder.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for that report. Just a couple of questions. With regards to the fleet, the new refuse and recycling vehicles, is there a cost that we can learn? I mean, how much did this new fleet cost?
The figure fails me at the moment, but the council has gone all through council, so we have voted to allow it to go through. I think it's 1.9. No, so I can't remember now. So 5 maybe, how to answer that.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, it all went through the capital programme that you all agreed in February at council, and it was around 6 million.
6 million.
Yeah,
I
foreign
feel
Raleigh.
okay. Well, I just feel that that's quite an important factor in this report, and it should be included. So 6 million, and also who actually owns the fleet?
We will own the fleet.
We will own the fleet.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs Page.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the report. Now, having been around for a little while, we've done the food waste collection once before, and we failed miserably, and it cost us a great deal of money. So my question to you is, I know it's a diktat, but how much money do we pay towards it? How much is it going to cost us? And how will we prevent half-empty lorries going around the district? So, you know, because there's a huge risk. So, and how are we preparing for ensuring this time we are a little bit more successful than the last time?
With regards to cost, I'll defer to Clive on that because we're getting revenue support, and so I'm not quite sure how that all adds up for the first few years. But the officers are actually working on a launch promotion event, and we will be giving away bags to encourage people to use the service to begin with. So it won't be an unsupported release. We will be out there trying to educate and promote the service. But I'll defer to Clive on the costs.
So not all the costs are completely evaluated yet, because the government haven't released actually how much they're going to subsidise the service for. But on the capital side, last year we received over 900,000 towards the capital cost for the food waste and caddies.
So if I may come back, please. So we are not living in Manchester or London where it's easy to go from door to door and collect the food waste, because I can't see what is different this time around other than government diktat. But last time in our rural areas, people feed the chickens, they feed the dogs, you know, or whatever else. We had empty lorries. So is there another strategy to get some buy-in? Because giving away food bags, well, it certainly isn't going to make me. And in the summer, the food smelled. So we had another problem there. So, you know, is this going to be a sustainable service, and do we have to carry it on even if it fails? I assume we do, but what else can we do? Because the risk is huge.
I share your concern. Yes, it is a statutory duty from now on, so we can't withdraw from it. But yes, I guess it would be down to officers to monitor uptake and the volumes that come through it, and then target sort of more education and promotion.
Councillor Moder.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, because back in, I think it was 2015, 2016, when we tried it before and it didn't work. I think one of the problems was we used to have these little brown boxes, and people used to put them outside. And then we had people complaining that there was rats and all sorts, because it was education. You know, they just didn't sort of use them and facilitate them how they were meant to. And obviously there's no guarantee, you know, you can only do your best. But I'm just sort of thinking if there's a process of learning from how we did it before and what went wrong in the past, and then try to make it work this time round, because it is a really important, you know, factor that if we can get it right, it'll benefit all of us. But it's just learning from past mistakes or what didn't happen, and then putting them right and trying to get it right this time, because as I say, it is a good initiative.
Thank you, Councillor Moder. I'm not sure if any learnings were collected from the last service. I'll go back to officers and find out, and if so, then maybe we can add that into the design of the service.
Do any other members have any questions? Could I just ask one? I mean, just in terms of the logistics of the collections, we spent 6 million on a new fleet. When they go out and do a collection, will they be collecting both the food waste and household waste, or is it just one or the other?
They are entirely separate vehicles. So we'll have dedicated vehicles for the food waste. So they'll be very small footprint compared to the RCVs. So we've got 2 different sizes of a refuse collection vehicle, and then we've got the food waste collection vehicles.
Thank you very much.
Permission to sleep off.
Thank you very much, Councillor Woodworth. Okay, thank you. We will move on to item number 5 now, which is the financial and corporate performance for Q4. If I could pass over to Clive, or oh, sorry, Councillor Knight. Apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I'm just going to run through the executive summary, start off, and then I'll hand over. So this report combines financial performance, outturn and performance. The combined report sets out the financial position outturn for the year ending 31st of March 2025 for revenue and capital, and covers performance monitoring of the refreshed corporate plan for Q4, January to March 2025. The financial performance revenue is underspent by 814,000, and that's a variance of 5.3% to the approved budget. Capital is on budget with 11.223 million slippage to 25-26, proposed to continue and finalise work on existing schemes. In performance, a refresh of the corporate plan key activities was undertaken prior to 1st of April 2024, resulting in 21 key activities for the 24-25 period. Appendix 7 contains a report of progress against all 21 key activities in the corporate plan. At the end of Q4, all key activities show green status. More details about the annual achievements is presented as Appendix 9. Appendix 8 contains a key report of 18 key performances indicated KPIs at the end of Q4. 5 KPIs had
Sorry,
a
Chair.
status.
Very sorry to interrupt, but I don't know where we are. I thought I knew where we are on the agenda, but I'm not sure if we've got the same report. Which page? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would like to follow it.
26. Will we be reading the report that went to Cabinet?
Page 26.
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
There's so
There's so many pages at the front of this report. I was going 5, 6, 7 pages in. I still couldn't find the beginning. Thank you.
So I got to, I think, Q4, 5 KPIs are red status. Q4 report also considers the overall year's performance against targets where 0 key actions and 4 KPIs did not reach target set. These are outlined in the report in Appendix 8. The links between the red activities, KPIs and the outturn have been reviewed and are detailed in paragraph 3.15 below. I'm going to hand over to Sean.
I think the where I would start is probably the area 3.4 of the page 19, I believe it is, in the pack. So just to go into a bit more detail. Yeah, the cabinet. So the 29. If it is easier to go to page 19, I think that gives a 3.4 onwards gives a detailed list of the variances and some of the reasons for those. I think the key one in the underspend of 814,000 is that if investment income is 1.6 million overachieved. So this is clearly a big part of why we have that overall underspend. There are some areas that have gone over budget, which include accountancy services. So that's it's one of the areas where we had quite a lot of interim cover in previous year. So we also had some unbudgeted software and system maintenance costs and some spend on the property valuations required by external audit who needed to do a full 5-year. Normally the programme of revaluations over 5 years, we had to do it in a single year to make sure that our fixed asset register was up to date. Was there a question there?
Councillor Graves.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder if I'm missing some pages. Councillor Knight has mentioned appendices 7 and 8, but mine seem to tail off at appendix 5. Could you please advise me where appendices 6, 7 and 8 are actually living?
I'll pass you over to Mr. Mason.
Right. Hi, councillors. Right. So the way the reports are now done for scrutiny, and we will take this away and have a look at this, is that for the 2 performance reports, we have the 2 reports that go to cabinet, yeah? And that was the one that Councillor Knight was reading from. What finance and performance have done in the past, we provided a covering report, which is the report that Sean is reading from now. But it looks like that there's a new process where Devon Services provide a summary at top. So effectively we have 3 reports. We're going to take this away because I can see the confusion I can see the confusion it's causing. We'll take that away and have a look. Okay. It might be that we cut out the additional report that finance traditionally did for overview and scrutiny. Okay, does that make sense? So
thank you. If asked a question, if I could come back on it might help Councillor
Yeah.
Page. Yeah, I think there's a real problem here. And when I started looking at the doubling up of the front page, you know, you've got one introduction by Sarah Hamilton, report author, and then her single page introduction is to the introduction of Sean Prosser, head of financial services. So and all the appendices are duplicated in a big list, which is very confusing. But I think reading between the lines of what Clive Mason just said, I don't think we have appendices 6, 7 and 8 in this report. I think they're missing. So unfortunately, Councillor Knight has read out some information on appendices that we don't have. But I have been in your position before, Councillor Knight, where I've relied on the Cabinet report that I so diligently worked on for Cabinet, and then when I come to scrutiny, it's actually been reworked and redesigned, and I wasn't aware. So I think you're in the same position that I've been in before. So I don't know if that is helpful, but yeah, this is quite confusing in that we're working on one set of Cabinet information and we don't have the data.
If I may, Chairman, I'm only subbing on this, but I have actually read all the pages and I can prove that, because if you're going to page, well, you obviously haven't read your papers. If you're going to around page 85 or whatever, we've got like scribbles and things. So I find, and I found the whole process really, really confusing. I just thought there was far too much, and I see nods around, far too much on the agenda. There was an awful lot of repeats, and we've got 2 lots of a quarter accounts, you know. And I feel, and I do not want to in any way get on to democratic services, because I think, and I will repeat it again because I'm jolly annoyed, because when we're looking at reports here, we keep talking about advice to parishes, and we have 100 savings and whatever else. Yet we never put more resources into democratic services. And they're totally, you know, we're spending money on all sorts of offices all over. And democratic services is always forgotten. And I'd like to put a plea out again, as I've done many times before, that during the budget cycle, that will be looked at, because it's getting a little bit ridiculous and it is a strain on democratic services.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Ms. Page. In terms of the appendices that Councillor Knight mentioned, the appendix 6 and 7, they're on page 28. I think one of the things is when we present these reports, it might be useful, because obviously of the expanse of the pack, it would be useful to mention the page numbers in future that we're referring to as well. I appreciate the comment as well about
I don't think, Chair, it mentions appendix 7 on 28, but the appendix is not on page 28.
Yeah.
Just wanted to correct you straight away.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just I'll come back to that in just one second. In terms of the two reports in one go, we discussed this at the last scrutiny meeting, that the situation with getting the quarterly reports, in order to get them in a timely manner, we wanted to get them obviously around the same time as the cabinet. And so in that sense, that is why we've got two at once. But I will pass you over to Sean first regarding the appendices, and then I'll pass you over to Leah regarding democratic services.
So much of the information that I was going through there is on, I think it was on page 19 or 20. It's also in Appendix 3 to the Cabinet reports. That's on page 34, I believe, if you want to find that. 34 to 36 is the commentary on what's 4 out and revenue.
Sorry, my original question was, I couldn't see appendices 6, 7 and 8. Which pages are they on, please?
Excuse me, councillors, can I just step in a second? Right, okay. So as I've explained, the report that went to Cabinet, right, is shown on page 25. Okay, so can everybody go to page 25? I'm looking at the one that's off the internet. Is that the same as everybody else? Yeah, page 25. Okay, that's the report that went to Cabinet. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So appendices 6, 7 and 8 are in that pack. They're certainly on the internet, and they are at page 39, 51 and 57. Yeah, 51. Appendix 7 is page 51. And Appendix 8 is page 57. Okay. And then we'll deal with quarter 1 report when we get to it.
This is just a printer error.
Yeah, I haven't got that. If you print that yourself.
No.
Page, sorry.
So. Page 84, 80, going on.
Has that got a little 2 at the bottom?
Chair, I think
It must be.
Councillor Page is just really unlucky because my pages are printed off with words, hers are printed off with wingdings.
Oh,
He's
right,
got entire
okay.
pages of wingdings.
It's fine on the internet.
Okay.
On CMIS, it's loaded up. Okay, I'll pass over to Leah regarding the comment about democratic services. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, actually, I wasn't necessarily going to talk about that, albeit thank you to Councillor Page for her very kind comments about democratic services and levels of resources. I had budget discussions I'm starting to have with Clive, and it's something we're always conscious of. Actually, I was going to sort of emphasise something you said, Chair. I think the way to resolve this today is if everyone can refer to page numbers when they're speaking, when they're asking questions. It'll make life easier. And I'm very, very happy to work with Clive and Sean so we can look at how we present some of these items on your agenda. Simple things like headers, as you've mentioned, Councillor Grace, exactly the same thing on some of these appendices, just makes it that little bit easier for you, especially when you're looking at paper rather than electronic documents. So we can absolutely have a look at those things. I'm very happy to do so.
And I'm very pleased you're looking at resources for democratic services and scrutiny because it's a long time coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Councillor Page. Sean, I think we're back over to you. What page are we on, Sean?
We are. I'll go to page 34. So that's Appendix 3 to the Cabinet report. Am I on?
Yeah. Okay, that's Appendix 3.
So these are the variances.
Blue banner. What? 34. Appendix 3 should look like that.
Yeah.
And it's the 24-25 budget variance is greater than 100,000.
Sorry, is someone about to talk about appendix 3? Is that?
Yeah, I was just making sure everyone was where they need to be. So if everyone's got appendix 3 there, then we've got I've got the variances of over 100,000 or under 100,000 under. So the key ones on this page are is the IT services one. So we've had a couple of systems that have been effectively parallel running with, because there's been a bit of lag in some of the projects that have been taking place. So this the iDocs and TeamViewer and Citrix. So they're two systems that have been required to be kept on as the true record while we've been migrating across to other systems. On page 35, so that's the resources area. I've already been through the interest and investment income part and the accountancy services part, but we've also got the housing benefits in there, which is effectively a net increase in the cost of rent allowances, and that's a function of increased need across the district. On the following page, we've got the communities and well-being. So there's an overall underspend across that area of 486,000. It's split largely across the advice to parishes, for example, which Councillor Page raised earlier. There's an overachievement of income on trade refuse. That's partially offset by the additional by the underachievement of income on residual waste collections, where we haven't pulled it down from Section 106 agreements. And then the planning is the one where it's is also on this page, with development control having effectively it's a 537,000 underachievement of planning fee income from a reduction in the large development fees coming in. And that's been offset by some of the vacancies in the department. We've also got an underspend in that year against the local plan Everton of 420,000. So the net expenditure is 1.09 million underspend against net services. We've also got an overspend on capital financing or minimum revenue provision of 274,000, giving us a final net expenditure underspend of 814,000. Councillor.
Thank you, Sean. There's a lot to go through there. There's quite a lot of information, and obviously we've got a second report for another quarter. Are there any questions? Would anybody like any clarification on some of those variances and the information that Sean's presented? Councillor Graves.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Sean, for taking us through that appendix. It's useful to have it walked through. My questions and comments, I wrote a lot of them down on page 19 of the agenda, which is a very helpful narrative introduction in section 3, mainly paragraph 3.4, because the report author has kindly listed a lot of sort of narrative explanations, although some of them are very brief and scant. I think I'm looking at some councillors to my left. I've got questions on almost every big figure, but I don't want to sort of monopolise them. So maybe if I pick a couple and then I yield the floor to someone else. But I am really concerned about the legal salary underspend of £169,000, because salaries are set at a level of resource, that we need a certain level of resource to keep this council running, to deal with projects. And not only is that underspent by 169,000, it likely means that we haven't spent it on locums either. So there's been a significant gap, by the looks of things, and I'm willing to be corrected by any staff member, in legal services at this council. So I mean, what's been going on? Have people been, have senior staff been trying to recruit legal staff and sort of failing repeatedly for whatever reason, maybe staff issues or lack of availability or something, or slowness of getting jobs out there? But I'm really, really concerned that we haven't had effectively a budgeted amount of staff in one of our key departments. So I'll start off with that question.
Yep. Through you, Chair.
Thank you.
I share the concern of Councillor Graves. Legal services, you may recall a couple of budget cycles ago, there was a considerable investment into legal services. But trying to recruit to this team has been an absolute struggle. And it's not just a struggle for Harborough, it's a struggle nationally. But quite uniquely, it's also a struggle to get locums or interim staff in to fill those gaps. And that has been incredibly difficult. And that's why we are where we are. That there is no perfect answer to this. Everybody's doing everything we can. We don't, no wheels have come off. We've been able to provide legal advice for planning committee. There were a couple of times that got a little bit scary, but we managed to address it and get somebody there. It's just that sometimes advice is taking a little bit longer to get than you would normally anticipate. But we have been offering market supplements, which is now part of the agreed process, and still we're struggling to attract staff. It is a national issue in local government because unfortunately legal specialists can earn considerably more in the private sector, and that's what we're competing against. So I have no answer to this other than everybody's working as hard as they possibly can.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Directed at Clive, is it had a significant effect on S106 deeds that have been tried to be implemented? I have personal experience that the S106 deeds have been delayed with terms and conditions being agreed over a protracted amount of time. And so, if you're saying that we are short of the legal staff, I would highlight what Councillor Graves has said, and it's a serious matter that has to be addressed. So, can it be addressed by sort of offering it more salary or by aggressively?
So what is now happening is we're not just trying to recruit locums, we are actually going to private firms to get this work done. And I'm not just talking about anything specific, it's across the board, because we've been reluctant to do that because we want to control our own destiny. But there's been literally no choice. So you are likely to see a different picture this time around when we get to this time next year. But it's just a very difficult market, and it's impacted quite a lot. And there has been some shared frustrations, but it is what it is, and we've just tried to actively manage it.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you. Yes, I think page 19 is very useful, saves you flicking through all of the pages. So anyway, under 3.41, it says Deputy Chief Executive and overall variance of £164,000 due to. So, and then it's listed. Now, just for clarification, later on in the report, it says the chief executive budget is 394,000, I think. So are all of these things also listed under the chief executive budget, because it says deputy? And
That's this resources starts there.
yeah, sorry, it's resources. Okay. So the question is, what is actually listed under the chief executive budget, and why did it increase so much? That's question number one. Question number two, penultimate paragraph, it says market hall 100k compounded increases. But later on in the report, where the increases are listed on top of what we're already spending, it brings that figure up to 290 £4,000 for cleaning and maintenance on the Market Hall. And I was wondering whether we have got a breakdown of justification, because if, you know, 100 grand is spent on cleaning, I do the cleaning of the Market Hall. So, you know, and I was wondering if there is a breakdown of all of these things and the justification. That we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Page. Can I ask you to go to page 35, because this has got the actual detail that was in the report to Cabinet, which is the same that should be at 19. I'll just sort of check Councillor Finance page. So not 35, 34, sorry, 34, not 35, sorry. Yeah, 34. So it shows chief execs there had a budget of 317 and a spend of 349, so a variance of 31. So I don't know where you were referring to. Yeah. Right, so then we've got deputy chief execs, okay? And that's the breakdown of those items. But you were talking about the Market Hall and 294. Go to the next page, on page 35. There you will see the Market Hall variance was 100, which matches to page 19. It's housing benefits, it's the variance of 294. On page 35. Okay, so they're those variances that you were referring to. Okay, does that clear the issue up? Okay, lovely.
Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Chair. Could I please raise the second item in paragraph 3.4.1, page 19, which is the ICT 311k, or if you're looking at page 34, it's the 311k penultimate blue line. I see that helpfully it's been split down into 189k iDocs and software costs and 129k. They're both overspends on TeamViewer and Citrix. Am I right in thinking, this is to the senior finance staff, that this is in relation to the on-running saga of getting the whole general ledger and scanning and everything working fully, or is it separate to the finance ledger project? If you could please run me through those two amounts and what they relate to, the 189 and 129. Thank you.
So this is separate. So the Citrix and TeamViewer used to be the main platform everyone used to get through to their files. That is now moving into the OneDrive. So that's entirely separate. The iDocs is the planning system.
Okay, thank you. So the 129k, this is, and is it licenses? Is it staff costs? Is it consultants? Is it what are, sorry, can you just explain which type of spend each of these figures is on? So staff, equipment, licenses, what sort of thing?
I believe in both cases it's licenses, but I'll confirm that and come back to you if that's okay.
Great, thank you.
Through you, Chair, some of these items were adjusted in the budget that was approved in February. So we recognise the trend that was coming through 24-25, and some of these were the budgets were for licenses in ICT. Will increase them. Just for your information.
Councillor Moden.
Thanks, Chair. You have to bear with me because I can't see anything because Councillor Page has got
the glasses were sharing.
So I'm just going to stab at it. I think it's page 20, 3.7, where it says the council is anticipating reserves totaling 30.6 million by the end of March 25. if we can just have a little bit of clarity on where that figure's come from, because I think previously it was a lot less than that. I think it was about 18 mil. If you can just kind of talk us through that figure, that'd be great. Thank you.
So this is in a bit more detail on page 37. So it's appendix 4 to the cabinet report. So it breaks it down into a bit more detail of what's in each area. Yeah.
Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Chair. I probably should have started on this point because this is one of the sort of overall points. But in the portfolio holder was obviously doing the introduction and saying that there's is it £814,000 revenue underspend. However, I think it's really important, Chair, that we split this into its two main component parts. It's always been a bugbear that for whatever reason, it's probably SIP for rules or something, we don't appear allowed, or maybe it's just a decision of this council, but we do not appear to budget for earning interest. And therefore, any interest income is an underspend or net benefit to us. But the investment income here in paragraph 3.4.2 on page 19 is shown as 1.67 million, which is absolutely humongous. So I want to note that the 1.67 million of extra interest coming in obviously means that there's if you take that to one side, we have a net overspend on everything else of 856,000. So, best part of 900, maybe £1 million overspend, but then wrapped up and covered by 1.67 million of income. So my first question on this is it correct that we're prevented from correctly, because this has been going on for years. This is not the first year that we've had between 1 and 2 million. Wow, we've had a load of extra income. And Clive Mason knows exactly what I mean because we've talked about it before in the last year or two. And it can make the council look a little bit silly if our budgets are starting to get millions of pounds out, not just hundreds of thousands. And that's the first question. Second question, and I'll stop at the second question. The issue of the overspend outside of interest being 856,000, that's one of the largest overspends I remember. And obviously we as councillors are setting budgets in a particular manner for a reason, because it says we're happy for this amount of money in this box on this service or this staff or this licence or this contractor, this service, this contract, external contractor. And obviously, if the amounts of actual spend are starting to really get much bigger than the numbers that we set as councillors, obviously, the first port of call, we are examining this and scrutinising this and wanting to know the reasons why. But it's starting to look a little bit uncontrolled and it's all over the place. There's so many variances. And also, do any of them go to Cabinet for approval? Is it okay if we vary this by 500,000, for example? So two particular questions to start with, if I may. The legalities over why we don't or can't, and I'm asking that as an open question, can't predict our investment income. And secondly, this really big overspend that it's covered. Thank you, Chair.
I'll pass you over to Mr. Mason.
Yeah. Okay. So can I take the questions in reverse order? So can I refer you, please, to page 33? On page 33, that is the overall Q4 year-end analysis, and that shows the net underspend of 814,000. So the council has an underspend of 814,000. Okay. So that's what we need to remember. Okay. So if we're talking about overspends, what we're saying is we shouldn't be recognising the income excess that we've achieved, which wouldn't be right. Okay, we are an active operational organisation that has to operate in a very dynamic way, and a budget is literally what we call it, a budget. It is an organic document. I reference that when I do the section 25 report, when I write the report that all members agree in February. It is not set in stone because I can't control what comes next. Okay. Now, that being the case, if we then talk about the various variances that are coming through, yes, some look big, but they were the best estimates at that time we set the budget, and expenditure was higher. And do remember, we are in a cost of living crisis. It has not gone away. It's still pressing. Utility costs are still expensive. And as we rationalise and transform our budgets, our services, costs do come in, and we have to adjust accordingly. Which brings us very, very strongly to income and investment interest. Yes, I completely agree. A variance of 1.7 million does look a lot. Okay, it's nothing to do with controlled by SIPFA or anything like that. We can set that budget on what we think it should be. However, there's one massive issue here. For the last 2 years, we've been expecting interest rates to be coming down. Okay, so a couple of years ago, we were not, we reprofiled the investment income budgets on what was predicted at that time. And that was predicting a more advanced profile of interest rate reduction compared to what actually happened. Okay, so we predicted it. So when we set the 24-25 budget, that's what we estimated it would be. It's all based on advice from specialists out there, but we can't predict what the government are actually going to do. And they didn't drop interest rates at that rate that we were expecting, hence why we end up with a big surplus. We, however, we do invest very prudently. We don't do anything racy at all. The phrase I usually call is vanilla. It is literally, we give it to blue chip companies or the local authorities, or it goes onto the market, which is all AAA rated, and that's what we're generating. So we're protecting our cash, and that is the most important thing. So yes, it is a fortuitous saving or income. When we set the 25-26 budget, I didn't change it because of that absolute risk again, because we just didn't know what the government are going to be doing. But it's natural, it's not even really the government, it's the market, isn't it? The market dictate it. So once again, we may be looking at a broadly similar number. But the wrong thing to do is to try to think you can get a racy budget back in, because all that does is it jacks up the amount of income we're going to say that we'll be recognising in the budget, and you then start introducing growth into your budget, which then means if we don't achieve that income, we've got a huge overspend coming through. So I'm afraid I have to be prudent. That's what my job is, and that's what I have to do. So that's why we are where we are. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, Councillor Graves. Councillor Mulder.
Thanks, Chair. I'm trying to follow it best as I can do. It's a lot of paper here, and I just feel that maybe it's me, but going back to my comment about the page 20 and the 30.6 mil, and then being referred to page 37 for the breakdown of where that 30, I kind of feel that if you'd put next to that, go to page 37 or whatever it was, then I wouldn't have asked the question, I would have gone straight there. It just feels like readability's sake, you just need to kind of do it a little bit more sort of like clear that we all, I mean, maybe others understood it, but because I'm subbing, I'm sort of finding it difficult to.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Mulder. I think Clive's going to come back on that.
And Councillor Mulder, this is what I mentioned at the start, that we will take that all away and we will look at how we report this next time around. Okay. Yeah, it will be more succinct. It's just this new process, it's bedding down. We see the confusion. That will be not how it will be next time around.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've done it like this. Last time we had a Q3 report and it wasn't quite done this way. So I think it is a bit of no, absolutely.
It's me as well.
Councillor Graves.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you to Clive Mason for the measured and detailed response to my previous two questions. And just really coming back briefly on those, if I may. I understand about the cost of living comment, but I'm not. I just want to raise. I'm not sure that would apply necessarily to the licenses for iDocs and TeamViewer and Citrix, unless they are somehow included in sort of cost of living increases. I think that's a specific issue of IT, and also there was the other IT large cost. It's the finance and insurance. So the extra interim staff. It's sorry, the bottom of page 19, the very last bullet point, the 372k extra cost on interim staff to support vacancies and finance recovery work and additional premiums, unbudgeted software and system maintenance costs and property valuations required by external audit. I won't go into too many of those details because I know it's gone through at Councillor Gare's committee and some of the audit issues that we have faced that have required significant extra cost to put right. But there is the third one that I wanted to come on to, and I don't know if one of the councillors to my left wanted to raise this. Someone's already mentioned housing benefits, 294,000 over cost. I would appreciate some more information on that because I'm not following what's caused that from the simple sentence next to it. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, that is so. It's a historic budget that we've had, and in respect of rent allowances, and this has gradually been changing over the years, but we've kept it broadly the same. But this last year, it has impacted on us by a considerable margin, which we are taking back to address with the Revenues and Benefits Partnership, so we can come up with a better budget for next year. It's just an additional pressure that has come through.
Sorry, could you explain what it is? I have no idea what it is at all.
So rent allowances. So this is housing benefit, literally housing benefit. So the need in the area has gone up and has been going up gradually over the past few years, but there's been a significant increase in this last year.
Sorry, Chair, but this is quite a very important point and a very large variance. My understanding was that it came through the council as a pipeline. In other words, we weren't subsidising this. If there was an extra cost, it was claimed through housing benefit and basically provided by central government. And we were, our gross council budget is what, 35-40 million coming in and out of the council a year. But the reason we look at the net figures of say 15 million is because the other 25 comes in and goes out. So sorry, could you, is part of what I said wrong? But I've always been operating on the understanding that it's pretty much net nil for the other 25 million.
Your phrase pretty much net nil is absolutely spot on, because it is pretty much. There is an element that we have to pay ourselves. So that it's not 100% funded. There's elements that we have to pay ourselves. And this is that incremental bit of ours going up, which we're going to address.
Chair, if I may, I'll try and be really brief. So I've never, in 18 years, I've never seen this sort of variance before. So maybe it's the highest in a long time.
It is the highest.
It is.
It is.
Can this, I mean, to suddenly know that £294,000 of taxpayers' money has been absorbed in something that in 18 years I've not seen before, many other people around this table have not seen before, I would appreciate if you, maybe it's in council reports that have gone to cabinet or something, but can we have a members briefing note, because when 300 grand vanishes on something we don't understand, we normally get told about it.
Okay, so when we pull together the 25-26 budget, there will be a section on this very item. Okay, so
we're in 25-26 now. Do you mean 26-27?
26-27. Yes, 26-27 even. When I do 26-27 budget, there will be an item on the specific item.
could we please, could I please be sent a sort of half page of April summary on this 294,000? I'd be very grateful to know what it's just really big, never seen it before. It's meant to be net nil, so I'd be keen to.
My understanding is that there is an element that we have to pay because and this is that element that's gone up.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
So also this report looks at performance, and those performance items are discussed later in the cabinet report. For your information, we report on two things here. One is key activities, and one is the strategic performance dashboard. In respect of our key activities, we don't have any reds last year, which is fantastic. So we did really well there. In respect to strategic performance, we did have a few reds, we had a few ambers, but there were 13 green. There were 4 reds, and those reds were in respect of items that really were not entirely within our control, but one of them was to do with the complaints. If you want to see the detail of all this, it is listed on page 29 at paragraph 3.16 onwards. The second one was to do with affordable housing. The third one was to do with ready to develop housing sites in the five-year period, and the other one's to major decisions allowed at appeal. Okay. Also, for the first time in this report, at the very last appendix, which is the nice glossy one right at the end, which is on page 57 of your papers, there is a list of all our annual achievements in 24-25, which lists all the things the council has done over that year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you to Clive and thank you to Sean for quarter 4. I think we're moving now on to quarter 1 of this year. Yeah. So if I pass this over to Councillor Knight, are you introducing this one? Yeah. Okay, so page 69 is the start of the covering report.
You want to read the effects in there, page 74. I see. So Councillor Knight, yeah. Councillor Knight is now going to read the exec summary from page 73 that was the report to Cabinet.
Thank you, Clive. Okay, yeah. So this combined financial performance outturn and corporate performance report sets out the forecast financial position outturn for the year ending 31st of March 2026 for revenue and capital, and covers performance monitoring and refreshed corporate plan for quarter 1, April-June 2025. Financial performance revenue is forecast to be overspent by 10k, a variance of 0.1% to the approved budget. Capital is forecasting to be on budget. So in performance, a refresh of the corporate plan key activities was undertaken prior to 1st April 25, resulting in 18 key activities for the 25-26 period. Appendix 7 contains a report of progress against all 18 key activities in the corporate plan. At the end of quarter 1, all key activities showed a green status. Appendix 8 contains a report of 19 key performance indicators, KPIs. At the end of quarter 1, 3 KPIs had a red status. And I think the link below, the red activities KPI and outturn have been reviewed and are detailed in paragraph 3.15 below.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. So that was the executive summary from the report to the Cabinet meeting. So for the benefit of members, do we want to go through the Q1? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The Q1 report is usually shorter. It's not one that a lot of councils do anymore, I think, Q1, because there's very little information compared to when the budget was set. In our case, there is actually something to report, and while the net position is that we're about 10,000 overspent, which is negligible in the context of it being Q1 and easily recoverable. In the resources area, we do have the investment income continues to be higher, but this is offsetting the pressure from the accounts recovery team, which is the cost relating to the financial system and the audit recovery process. So that overall is giving a £50,000 overspend in the resources directorate. In the communities directorate, we have a £50,000 pressure expected on the lifeline service as a result of the movement to digitalisation for much of that. And the positive is that while we had the overspend on planning income last year, this year we are expecting it to be an overachievement of income, partly linked to the 5-year land supply issue, which I can go into a bit more detail if requested.
Thank you, Sean. So that was details from page 69. Has any members got any questions regarding the Q1? Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you. Just a general question. Page 82, transformation, 4 million to meet the cost to the current transformation programme. And then it says usable if this would be available to meet cost of transformation. Could we have an update to where that is? What we're doing, because we used to get a report what the transformation, what the savings were, and then somewhere earlier on I've spotted, and I made a note, I've lost it now, because I haven't got my glasses, you see, so I don't know what I'm doing, so you're lucky. The lifeline, and there was a overspent, and I was wondering if we could have a report on the lifeline. We haven't seen one in a long time because we know that numbers and figures had dropped off, but you know, it's a very valuable service to our elderly residents, and I was wondering if we could see anything. But back to the transformation, so where are we at with that? And why is it set to meet cost and then usable? So please explain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Page. Yes, so that's page 82, the third item down. Thank you.
So through, thank you, Chair. So what we've just got listed at 82 is literally just the allocation to the transformation reserve for future transformation. It hasn't been allocated out yet to individual projects. So it's just the balance on that reserve at that point in time.
So have we stopped the project? Where are we with the project? So are we just...
We certainly haven't stopped. There's lots of stuff going on. So what would you would like just a side of A4 on what the current transformation programme is and stuff like that?
Where the savings are, it would be nice for everybody to know what, you know, we're saving and, you know, cost against expenditure.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Okay, we can do that. Thank you.
Councillor Grace.
Yeah, just obviously it's a much briefer information on this report, as Sean Prosser was saying, compared to Q4 last year. So far fewer questions. I'm referring to page 69, the narrative description, again on paragraph 3.4. I know, I mean, similar comment, we are Q1, 3 months of the way through 12, and the investment income is 250,000. So, you know, if you extrapolate forward that's getting on for 1 million over the. No, is it 1 million over the year? Or is it sorry, just to clarify, is this 250k prediction for the whole year, or is it 250k income for the first quarter? It looks like it's a Q1, 3 months worth of income.
Great, Chair. I think at the moment it's probably a slightly conservative estimate of where we are for the year, because we don't know how quickly the interest rate will drop. It is intended. The predictions are that it will drop throughout the year.
So
it may increase more.
So these figures are annualized estimates of the budget.
It's forecast out to
we're only
where
3
we
months,
expect to be Q4.
We're only 3 months of the way through, but it is predicting that this the best prediction yet. So the investment income drops from 1.67 million down to 250k, although I appreciate you say it's fairly conservative estimate. I mean, how conservative? Have you halved it?
It depends on where interest rates go. They have dropped pretty significantly in terms of what we're seeing on the investments already. So I think the average we had when I arrived in March was around 4.4%. It's now under 3.9%. So it is coming down.
10% drop.
But it's not necessarily coming down so quickly that we'll end up at 250. It may. I would hope it will continue to track higher than that. We are improving our cash flow forecasting to make sure we're getting the most out of that we can.
Great, thank you. And the only other bit really that I wanted to raise was, you've already mentioned the 300k interim staff extra cost, sort of not in the budget to support the vacancies and financial recovery work. Is that likely to change as the year progresses, or is it pretty fixed at 300k?
I should be fixed now, because I think we've got end dates for all of the interim staff in the finance team. One left this week, got another one at the end of the month, and then there's a couple more who are going to help with the audit itself.
Are there any other members that wish to comment on the Q1 report? No, okay. So thank you for considering the contents of that. We now move on to the voluntary sector grants, which is item 7 on our agenda tonight. It is page 117 in the pack, and Councillor Knight, I believe you're introducing this, but we also have Rachel as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I actually will hand this straight over to Rachel. I am standing in for Councillor Beadle, but I would be happy for Rachel to take this report through. Thank you.
Thank you.
For you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you tonight for listening to this report. If I just give you an overview of the summary, historically the council has provided core funding to 4 voluntary organisations that are contained in this report. Annual core funding at the moment is 69,230 per year, and that is all agreed each year at the council's budget setting process. I've provided you with some information from each of the voluntary organisations that have provided me with their annual reports or annual statements to give you some idea of what work they are doing and supporting our communities. Just want to refer to item background to the core funding. Some members around the table may remember back in, so it seems like ages ago now, the Budget 25 challenge that we undertook. And part of that was to actually reduce the core funding, and that did take place in 22-23. It was partway through the year, and we actually reduced all of the core funding to those 4 organisations by 30%. So we actually reduced their funding. We haven't reviewed the funding since. I think that, as we've explained earlier on in this report, these groups have, we've been through COVID. These groups have supported us through those COVID times. They also help and continue to support groups pre-COVID. And then we always got hit with the cost of living and the impact of all of that that's brought to our communities. So I think, and I hope you'll see from the reports that have been provided by these groups, that they are providing some really valuable support to our communities out there. I don't have any details, and I'm happy to take any questions away you may have, and I can bring them back to you about anything, but I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Yeah, we'll take questions just in a moment, but obviously in terms of this report, it would be useful if we have any recommendations, we can seek some agreement and pass them back to the Cabinet in order to take anything forward that we feel is pertinent. Councillor Mrs. Page.
Thank you. So, been here many a times, and I kind of feel that we are providing funding for the same organisations every year. And to me, for instance, and I'm just, as a bit of clarity, for me, for instance, the Lutterworth transport scheme is the most valuable service we have got over in Lutterworth, because we have got quite a lot of social inclusion and whatever. And now over here, there's a transport scheme which is getting funded by the Bowdens, and so it all works. That works very well, and that is what it is important to me. It is the outcomes are at grassroots level. They're providing for the residents of Lutterworth and the surrounding areas. And I think 4,000 and a little bit of, is a very minimal amount. In fact, it is hardly anything when you're looking at their overheads, what they're doing and what they're providing. Now, when I'm looking, on the other hand, at Citizen Advice, who are swallowing up most of the budget, but as you can tell by their report, they're highly professional, and you get a lot of figures to confuse you, but they're getting funding nationally. My transport in Lutterworth doesn't get any national funding, and so does Val and whatever. So to me, I think going forward, what these grants, no doubt, we are going to keep them because they've been here for 20 years. But I think we're going to have to start looking at ring fencing the grants to ensure that the people get the money at grassroots levels. So going back, like I said, the 4,000 and a bit Lutterworth Community Transport gets, I know it's going to the people. Now, over the last month, several months, with my local area coordinator, I run a help hub every second Thursday of the month in Lutterworth. And I had originally loads of people coming in saying, and this is a fact, originally we funded CAB to have an outpost, and Amanda is nodding, in Lutterworth. And guess what? It's gone, but they're still taking the money. And that was the prerequisite to having that money, to have something here and something in Lutterworth. But there was only a telephone line. Now, in order, even my LAC couldn't get through, that's a local area coordinator, couldn't get through to the CAB. Yet here I see the most glorious report on how many people they helped in Lutterworth East and in all of the villages. But the evidence, as far as I'm concerned, and I could be wrong, we had to chase them. And I had to go to Kat, our director here, to chase them, to get some. So anyway, that is a lot of waffle, like I do. In conclusion, what I like to see going forward, it is that the grants are more fairly distributed, and they are distributed not on a just handout so they can buy chairs, or that they actually ring fence to provide services to the people. So if Val gets money from Harborough, those services they do have to provide in the district, and vice versa, not as part of the, anyway, and that is my comment, to ring fence these grants and maybe to give a little bit more to a voluntary organisation like Lutterworth Transport than a major like Citizen Advice. And I know you might argue and saying they're doing a lot of good things, but they do get an awful lot of money.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mrs. Page. Thank you for that, because I mean, when I looked at the report myself, I did wonder how these figures have been attained, and I don't think in the report it really does define how the money is assigned to these organisations, and I think it would be really nice to have a review of how that's done, in order to make sure that there's a fairness in the distribution of the money, especially to national organisations like CAB and the others. So thank you.
Originally, if I may, when I was sitting where you're sitting, we tried to do that. But then it went, because what they used to ask for was money to the core funding to run it. And you see, that was not the point of giving money. The money was there, as Amanda, because she was here, nodded, to actually put, and I'm only picking on CAB, I could pick on Basil as well, but they did help so to provide an outpost in Harborough and Lutterworth that somebody was there, people could go to. But now we have a telephone, a general one, and, you can't even get through. And like I said, my local area coordinator has to go through the system. And it's just not fair, because we are giving money to get services to our resident at grassroots levels, not to a national concern to fix their light bulbs or whatever they do.
Thank you very much. Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Chair. Right, so I read this report, or I tried to. I scanned some of it, I read other parts of it, and then I really needed to go to the description on the scrutiny work plan of what this was meant to be achieving, because I found this very confusing. It looks to be a dump of 4 different things. So I'll just read this out to you, because my opinion, if I was in your seat, I might have pulled this report tonight and not looked at it. I'm quite unhappy about several aspects of it. So I'll read out what.
Sorry, Councillor Grace, which page are you reading?
So the scrutiny work plan.
Oh, right.
So
sorry.
this is the extra pages that I think we were given in our documents pack. So this report, I would imagine that the scrutiny committee asked this specific language in a previous year, or maybe year or month, to review funding the council provides to various voluntary sector organisations, e.g. Citizens Advice Bureau, to identify how the funding is being used by these organisations, and the rest of it isn't relevant to this report. Now, in my opinion, a review is where the report we get has reviewed it. But I think what we've been asked to do tonight is for us to perform the review. But my judgment, Chair, is that really I think the officers would have been better to review this and give us some conclusions to whether they think it was good or bad, or there were some problems. Or I just feel as if we've got a massive data dump from 4 different organisations, and they've each provided something quite different. So I mean, I'm a bit shocked, to be honest. You all know I'm an accountant. I'm a bit shocked to see that Vassal that's just sent us their annual report and accounts. There's no covering letter. There's no covering summary. This is what we've done. I mean, the report, to me, I can't see how the £69,230 is split between the 4 organisations. So I don't know whether Vassal got £1,000. I just don't know. I can't tell. But Chair, the part of the scrutiny work plan which says, the second sentence, to identify how the funding, in other words, our funding, to identify how the funding is being used by these organisations. Well, I can't tell what our funding has gone to. Now, if the message coming back is, well, we can't actually tell you where your 10 grand went or your 2 grand went because it's absorbed into overheads, I'd rather they be honest with us, and that won't necessarily stop me supporting important local organisations, but I just think we need that clarity and honesty. So there's a split in there. Is it page 170? Thank you. Great. So I missed that. That's my fault. I'll apologise. Citizen Advice Bureau. Right. So Vassal, we've got a set of accounts here, of which our contribution is £9,800. And the annual income is, I think, a few hundred thousands of pounds with that. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. I mean, it's like I approached 4 children of mine and said, right, could you show me how Dad's allowance is benefiting you at the moment? And one of them just dumped their bank statements to me. The other one, Cab, has actually provided a really good report. I have to say, I'm quite impressed by that report, although I can't tell necessarily what. There's some very big numbers in it, and I can't tell, for example, the 47,000. I didn't think it was there. I couldn't spot it. There is another Lutterworth Community Transport. Okay, that's a smaller amount. I mean, it's interesting to think whether we should be expecting every community to have a community transport. Do we support Broad and Astley? Do we support Kibworth Community Transport, Fletching Community Transport? It does raise some interesting questions, but again, think about the analogy of asking and I don't have 4 children, I only have 2, asking 4 children, you know, how is Dad's allowance benefiting you? It looks like one of my children has just done a data dump on what their friends think of them. So, you know, I know that getting feedback is important, but that's not necessarily showing how our money is being spent. So I don't. There's a massive data dump of information, and I'm unable to properly review the funding that we provide to the various organisations. There's so much information here. We probably could have had a members' briefing evening on these reports before seeing them. So I just don't think scrutiny has worked very well in this occasion, and I just don't feel. I feel that a report should have been written to review the funding the council provides to various. I don't think having a data dump of whatever they decide to provide to us.
I think you've made your point there, but I do think the point is that we've got this information and this is a starting point in order to act on it, because I think we've obviously got the information about how these organisations are being funded by Harbour District Council, but we probably need to look into that further now. And this is obviously the first step in that process. And I think we do need to, you know, obviously look at what they've presented and go away. I think we probably need to recommend further action to be taken on this in order to get that fairness that Councillor Mrs. Page mentioned. So, Councillor Taylor, if I just.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could get Equalities to have a look at it, because I think I agree with you, Miss Page, that these are fantastic services, but in terms of equality to access for these services, and I was looking at the Citizen Advice Bureau, that seems to be much more Market Harbour dominated. The Lutterworth one seems to be more Lutterworth, Home Start. These are, I believe that these sort of services should be available to everyone across the district. So I wonder if one of the recommendations we can do is to go back, for it to go through the Equalities.
Thank you.
Come back, please, Chairman. Amanda will bear me out because you were there. Originally, what we did is we had the 4 organisations in. If they wanted the money, they had to be here and they had to ask the questions and they answer the question, and they had to tell us how they spend the money, not just dump general information, but how they spend the money in the district, and, you know, on the basis of this is our money, what are we getting for it, and how are you going to prove that? And I think we have to go back to it because, you know, I feel very strongly that this is taxpayers' money and we should be making sure that our residents get the best out of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just bring in Leah at this point and then I'll bring it back to Rachel? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, because I do appreciate lots of members want to come in. Unfortunately, I've got to head off in a moment, but I was just going to make some really fundamental points here. I think in a few weeks, we've got the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny are going to be giving some workshops around the purpose of scrutiny and what you do and how you can get the best out of scrutiny. And I think that might be really helpful when you talk about things like the report, its purpose being here, have we got the organisations in front of us? Because a lot of the times what you put into what you're reviewing is what you get out of it. I've put in things that other authorities we can look at, such as each scrutiny item has a little bit behind it that goes on the work programme that says, this is what you want from it, this is who you would like before you, all those sorts of things. So we define all that out before it comes to scrutiny, and you get potentially what you want out of it much more clearly. Having said that, I think, as Councillor Taylor alluded to, there is still the scope for you to be making recommendations here, because if you're saying, for example, well, this organisation has provided this and we find that really good, and that organisation provided that, we can take something from that. We can say, well, these organisations, this is what we'd like you to report back to us on. We like that style. Can you please do more of that for us moving forward? So just because it might not be exactly what you want here tonight, you could potentially can still get some useful things coming out of it moving forwards.
Thank you, Leah. Rachel, I know you had your hand up. All right. Okay.
Can I come back again, please, if I may?
Yes.
I mean, it's a little bit late in the day to make changes now, or in my opinion, to change a report and say, look, none of you can have any of this money now, you know, but I really think we have come a long way away from what it originally was meant to be. And again, Amanda's nodding because she's been around as long as I have. So I think that a new criteria, that would be my recommendation going forward, that we go back to or the old criteria where we set terms of references and things the organizations will have to meet in order they can access the money, but also to look at the split, because it's absolutely ridiculous that Citizen Advice should get 47 and say, for instance, Lutterworth Transport gets 49 when, you know, the whole community is relying on it. So there isn't. Anyway, I think it needs a report to go back to set the terms of references.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gare.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's a good way to judge how much any organisation should get simply by saying they're not getting very much and they seem to be getting an awful lot. As to the Lutterworth Citizens Advice, that collapsed after Lutterworth Town Council withdrew its funding on a secret ballot organised by a group of people who didn't want to see it there. Do these organisations not have to present their annual accounts? They would at Lutterworth, if they were getting a grant from Lutterworth, produce their annual accounts, which says exactly what they're spending the money on. You wouldn't need to have to meet with anybody, and then you could make a judgment about whether, I mean, Citizens Advice is obviously going to, if they're employing lawyers, is going to face some enormous costs. Okay, thank you, Chair.
If I can come back on that, they did not fold and withdraw the services because of the Lutterworth minute grant. They were, ask Amanda, she's sitting, this was a precondition from this council that the 50,000 they would provide, and regardless of the town council, an office, a present in Lutterworth, and they did not do that anymore. There is a phone line. And that is where the problem lies, that our residents have to come to the help hub because they can't access.
I understand that, yes, but that was not the point I was making, and it was a considerable sum from Lutterworth Town Council.
Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Chair. Two briefer comments from me, please. Firstly, on the second grant supported organisation, Home Start South Leicestershire. It's a nicely sort of detailed summary of sort of some information as to what they're doing. But starting from the first page and carrying on, I personally have not had any connections or referrals or ward inquiries about Home Start South Leicestershire, and I'm sitting here going, I'm actually not quite sure what they do. So I think next time this report comes, I don't think all councillors should be assumed to know intimately what all these organisations do. I genuinely haven't had any connections or seen a report from this organisation before. I don't know what they do. I'm starting to get a bit of an idea by going through the detail, but it would be helpful if they're, you know, if we asked Home Start South Leicestershire, you know, give us sort of a banner intro as to what you do. They would have done something completely different to this. This is more of a, you know us already intimately, this is how we're doing. So I've missed that. And the second point I wanted to make was, can I just ask Rachel, if we approached Vassal and sort of said, oh, can you send us some information on, you know, what our grant is used for, where it's gone, how it's benefited the community. When you sort of surprisingly receive just a very dry compliance document in return, the annual accounts, which are not designed to be plain English, literally, did you approach them again and say, oh, is there any chance you could actually just provide a maybe a more succinct few-page summary, so that, because we, you know, even as a finance professional, these are not easy documents to wade through.
Thank you. Voluntary Action South Leicestershire provided the annual accounts. I did go back and ask them for their like an annual statement similar to what you've seen from Citizens Advice, which gives you an overview of the work that they're doing. Unfortunately, at the time of putting the report together and since, I've not heard back from them. Somebody was on holiday and I've not heard back from them since.
Thank you. Did you?
So thank you for the chair. So thank you for your feedback. It's been really helpful. And I think the clarity around what's required be really helpful, I think, for everybody, really, because I think that I've misread what was on there. You wanted information about the work that they're doing, and that's the information you've got from the work that they're doing. So I think it'd be helpful for officers and for members to get the best out of scrutiny if we can have more detail, specifically what you're looking for. I did put a link to each of the voluntary organisations in the report, so you could actually go to their websites to actually understand what each of them do. They are very vast organisations, and to try and summarise it in a small paragraph may not do them justice. So there was a link in there for you to have a look. I will take back the thoughts that you're saying about the criteria. As officers will know, you'll know as an officer, I've inherited this service. So I am not aware of all of the terms and conditions that you guys all agreed many, many years ago. I don't even know where they are, so I'll need to go and have a look to find those because it's way before my time. So I will go back and start looking for that information, and I will look to see how we pull the criteria together. I will just like to give it one caveat though around voluntary sector organisations and the fact that although there is quite a big difference between the money that each of those are receiving, they are providing vital information to our community and they are very reliant on it. So if we start looking at amending any of that type of criteria or that money, that could have an impact on the services that are being provided. But again, I can look to see what that would look like. Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, just one further question. I suppose I'm concerned that there was a 30% reduction years ago. As well, two questions, I suppose, can that reduction go back to be considered whether that can then be increased again? But also 30% reduction now with the cost of living and inflation. Is there a way of working out what actually that 30% looks like in real terms now? So I imagine for a lot of these organisations, 30% 3 years ago is probably had a much huger impact on the day-to-day running now. And I just echo your comment. I think without these services, the council would be paying out a lot more money in a lot of other different areas, and these are really need to be supported and financed.
Pass that through. So the 30% reduction was the consequence of what was budget 2025. So those members that were here will remember BC 25, and that's where it came from. Of course, the voluntary sector is very important, and they do deliver services. And do not think that I'm playing it down in any way, because that is not what I'm doing. But there needs to be clear demonstration of good use of public money, and they need to be seen to be delivering against priorities that we have. And at this point in time, from what I see, they are delivering against those priorities that we have for that amount of money. So it's a difficult argument, this, because you can give them more and more, whoever they are. Okay. And it's never enough. And I have actually been through this a number of times at a number of local authorities. So, but it all has to rest on a business case. It all has to rest on appropriate due diligence and what they are going to achieve. And usually the trade-off is, if they're going to achieve this thing extra, there has to be a residual cut somewhere else for this thing. Okay, because if it's in your priorities, you will be achieving your priorities. And so you've externalized it to go do this, but you're providing the other internally. The trade-off then comes, if I want them to do it all, what am I going to give up? Okay, so it is a difficult equation.
Can I just ask a question? In relation to the money, obviously this has been assigned from a budget, and we particularly just identified these 4 organisations. Is there any other way another organisation could tap into it if they deliver an equal service? Do we have any criteria for that?
Thank you, Chair. As I said before, I've inherited this service. So the criteria that was initially set, Councillor Page said 20 years ago, whenever it was, I don't know. I will have to go and look for that, because I don't know what that was and what the criteria and why these 4 organisations were ever selected. I do not know that. The process we have at the moment is I've inherited those 4 organisations through the budget setting, having money allocated for core funding, and it goes through the budget setting each year. I check with the portfolio to see that they're happy that we continue the funding. It goes into the budget, it gets through the budget process, and that's what we're doing. I think also as well, we need to consider that if we are going to look at any changes to funding in these organisations, we also need to consider that we can't just say from the 1st of April we're not going to fund somebody, because these are voluntary organisations that are vital, and they would need to plan for any reduction in changes, especially in their funding, if we're going to reduce any. And then also we have LGR around the corner. So it's also making sure is what do we do, because if we start looking at changing these organisations, will they still be there? What's going to come when the unitary comes through? What does that actually look like? So I'm happy to go away and pull together a more detailed report about the criteria. I will let you know these organisations will be very happy to come and talk to you. If you'd like me to invite them to meetings, they would be very happy to come and talk to you. We can then look at how we can move something forward. But I think we just need to be mindful that with the timings, with the criteria and trying to change something, we really need to understand what that impact is going to mean to our residents and those voluntary organisations.
Rachel hit the nail on the head, because when the criteria was set at the time, it was considered that these were vital because at the time what happened was, you know, there were credit issues, people needed financial and debt advice and whatever. And for instance, in Lutterworth, in Lutterworth East, it was identified that there was quite a lot of deprivation and problems. So you see, that's why we wanted an outpost there. It was the same with the transport because there was nothing in the villages. So citizen advice were doing their job at the time quite well. So there was a transport, and Vassal used to actually go out, but they don't do that anymore. You know, they don't, and I can't remember why we chose Home Start, what they delivered. I can't remember that anymore. But at the time, we thought those services were vital. But what we've also got to remember now, it is that we have another 2 million grant fund. So 2 years more, the money is available. So do we say to these, well, if the money isn't, and again, I say Lutterworth Transport, if the money isn't, okay, you're getting a grant, but you can also bid into Section 1 or the £1 million grant. So I think there are a couple of decisions we have to think about, you know, can they or can't they? And, you know, so I think there's a little, I don't envy you your job because there's a lot, because also with the changes, as you just said, if we're going to unitary, we have to make sure that if we do give the money and think that our criteria of dishing the money out is sustainable and will last if we're going into a second period.
Sorry, Councillor Burrow.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Page says, this is historic, so it stretches back probably beyond to when you started. But I certainly remember that we always invited the people who ran these charities to come to talk to us every year to tell us personally what they'd done during the year for our residents. It's some time since they've come, isn't it, Rosita, Councillor Page? But I think that would be valuable. And as you said, they probably come and so they could talk to us personally. Citizens Advice is a massive charity, if it's a charity. And looking at their reports, there's a lot of work going on in the district. Certainly for every part of the district have certainly benefited from advice from Citizens Advice. Certainly in my area, which amazingly has turned out to be the second busiest place for Citizens Advice. They've done a huge amount looking at their report, and I think Welland Ward in Harbour is the top one. So for their money, I think they're certainly saving a lot of money for people, and they're also winning a lot of benefits for my residents anyway. So I think I'm disappointed that they lost some funding, especially the smaller ones. I don't think Citizens Advice needs any more, but I would say that Lutterworth Community Transport and certainly Home Start South Leicestershire, it's disappointing that their funding was reduced. And I've noticed that Home Start have actually been doing a lot of fundraising, or trying to, because they are short of money, and they do a lot of good for troubled families throughout Leicestershire, not just South Leicestershire, but there are 2 other ones in Leicestershire. And I think we should look at it all again, and certainly get them to come and talk to us, because they do a very valuable service, all 4 of them, for our residents. So it was an interesting report, but we just need to go a little bit further. And you probably didn't know because you've just adopted it, but if you talk to Councillor Page, she'll tell you.
Thank you, Councillor Burrow. Has anybody got any further comments? I mean, just by listening to the comments made by everybody, I think we could probably obviously look to have a further report that would determine the terms of reference that the voluntary sector organisations have to meet, but also to consider each organisation from an equalities perspective that was mentioned in providing a service to the whole district, and obviously invite the different sector organisations to speak to the panel about what they have achieved within the year with the funds that they've had. And I would imagine every councillor has a £5,000 grant that I know Homestart has contacted me about. You know, it would be a very good way of them being able to, you know, have an ear during that as well. So would members be happy with those recommendations? Do we need to take a vote on that? Okay, so I need a seconder. Sorry.
Could I add something into?
Before we second, just one more.
Through you, Jay. So yeah, when you talk about terms of reference, I think you do need to compare whatever they're doing to what our priorities are. Because if they are not meeting our priorities, there's what the question you have to ask is why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So because effectively we are outsourcing a service when it goes to the voluntary sector. So that the primary test has to be that what we're asking them to do meets our i.e. our corporate plan. So I would ask that is sort of right up there at the front of that ask.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Terms of reference.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the recommendations that we would make, they would need to be relevant to HDC and its objectives. Yeah. So in terms of reference, that's what we would be looking at. So would I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I think you just beat Councillor Burrell. If we could have a vote on that for the recommendations to be passed to Cabinet and hopefully report back to scrutiny sometime soon. Thank you, Rachel, for that. Okay, that brings us to the final item, well, the penultimate item on the agenda, which is the work plan, the forthcoming work plan. You will have on your desk, on your desk, on your tables, the forthcoming cabinet meetings and what's being discussed. Now, we have another meeting on the 11th of December where we have the corporate performance Q2 report. The outcome of the special expenses review, I think, has been removed from that work plan. And we've got the corporate portfolio holder update. And obviously we would look to review the work plan then. So are there any items on the cabinet agenda that any member feels we should be looking at in that forthcoming work plan and beyond? So yes, sorry, before I come to members, I'll just let Sarah speak.
Thank you, Chair. So what I'd included on your places is the current forward plan. And as I'm sure you're all well aware, the forward plan includes key decisions being taken by the Cabinet. So the classification for those key decisions are decisions resulting in the council incurring expenditure or making savings over £50,000, or that they have a significant effect on a community's living or working in two or more ways in the district. So those are items that obviously if you as the scrutiny panel feel that should be considered, this gives you the opportunity to do that. If there are any other items that you do want to be included, and whether that's those as you as a panel want to be included, or whether there are any urgent items that officers feel that should be included as well, those items will need to be assessed against the criteria, and the criteria is listed on the first page of the report. So I won't run through those, but if anybody can't see a copy, then I can detail those. So it means that there is robust criteria as to why there should be an item added onto the scrutiny work plan. And alongside that, we need to be very clear about the scope, because I think what was highlighted in maybe the previous voluntary sector report is that the scope wasn't quite what the panel wanted and vice versa. So I think we need to be extremely clear about what the panel wants, what the remit of that report is, and yeah, with the scope. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, so if I pass over to Councillor Graves.
Yeah, I'll be quick and reserve my right to come back with more detailed questions, but I just wanted to ask a couple of quick things. Firstly, sorry, did I catch that the 11th of December meeting has had the special expenses review cancelled from it?
So it's not on the agenda for the 11th of December. It has been moved back
to.
It's been cancelled. Has it been cancelled at the minute? It's been. Oh right. I'll pass to Clive.
Yep.
Okay, so the intention was for the review to be brought to that meeting. Unfortunately, so what's happened is we went out to procurement earlier this year to get in somebody to do this review for us. We had nobody tender for it at all, not anybody. So means we've got to do it internally, and it's going to take longer. So it's just the reality of the situation with everything else going on. We haven't got, so I've inherited it. I'm going to have to do it. It's going to take longer. So the intention was whatever this fundamental review was going to be, it was going to be for the next budget. I just can't see we're practically going to get that done. It was really unfortunate. We went to the complete market. We went to a proper framework. We did it completely properly. Not one bite of interest, not one bite. So that's completely scuppered the review process.
Chair, I think I'll be setting myself up very shortly as a special expenses consultant expert and tout my services nationally. And if I spot anything like that coming up on any council, with my knowledge over the years, I think I'll bid, but not here. So I think it's best if we just scrub this for the time being, and it's not going to come to March definitely or anything.
No.
Like that. Okay, I'll cross that out. So, Chair, my next question, I'll come back later with more details.
Excuse me, Councillor. But something will be coming back.
Yeah.
At some point. I don't want anybody to leave the room thinking this has gone off the table. It hasn't. Something will be coming back.
And I appreciate the connection with local government review and assets and things like that.
Actually, it's nothing to do with local government review. It's something to do with assets. We wanted to fundamentally review it.
Okay.
And we've just been caught. It's as simple as that.
And my next question, this is before me suggesting individual ideas. I just wanted to ask you, Chair, because of your more consistent access to officers and in your position, are you going to suggest some things for us first? I'd be more than interested if you are, or otherwise it's obviously over to us as a committee to sort of start suggesting quite important things like, for example, Section 106 grant issues and the risk of loss. And so I've got several ideas. Looking at the full plan, there are some very big important things that, and because at the moment, the committee are probably aware that if you look through the scrutiny work plan at the moment, if you take off the corporate portfolio holder updates and review the work plan and the standard quarter 1, 2, 3, 4 outturns, we only have one item remaining of any difference to all those, which is a CCTV. So we unless we put some more things on the agenda, we have one item going forward, which is not enough and not responsible enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. Yeah, we have, in terms of scrutiny, we have tried to stick to 2 main items per meeting on the agenda. But I mean, it was actually raised by Councillor Mrs. Page about a potential review of the lifeline. I think you made a comment today that we would need to have a look at the scope of the report. Well, we'd need to have a look at services that they were providing. So, I mean, that's already come up in today's meeting that we could potentially move to add to the agenda for the 11th of December. Councillor Mrs. Page.
Yes. I think Lifeline, either a briefing or to go to scrutiny is very, very important, because I don't think a lot of the new councillors actually know how valuable it is and how much, work they do. But my comment is in relation to the CCTV monitoring update, and I'm speaking for Councillor Gare now. Councillor Gare, and who is a town councillor as well, and myself have been under pressure in providing a CCTV update for the Lutterworth Town Council, because there has been a lot of antisocial behaviour and things, and in previous years we found that some of the cameras weren't working. So in response to that, we used to have a regular where town councillors and district councillors were invited to look at the CCTV, whether it was working and whatever. Now, also, the police used to have a regular access, but on last week, it was when the police gave a presentation to the Lutterworth Town Council, I don't think they were aware that we even had the CCTV. Councillor Gare can come in a minute. So we used to, and I'm sure resources do not allow anymore, but when CCTV was at the police and at the Lifeline, because I went and visited them, it was constantly monitored 24 hours. Well, it's now somewhere here and we don't know, is it being monitored, what the tapes, what's going on. So a review is really welcome on the agenda. However, could we have a very short briefing, because we did send a note out, because Councillor Gare will have to give a report at the next town council meeting, so we would really like to know whether the CCTV cameras are working, etc. Over to you.
Yeah, we had this meeting with the police at Lutterworth Town Council. Lots of issues were raised, among them the CCTV cameras. They didn't know what was happening there, among many other things that they didn't know was happening in Lutterworth. Their patrolling officers didn't know we had a public space protection order, among other things. Anyway, very kindly, Councillor Page then wrote to officers here that I needed to be written to, and I am still waiting for those reports to come through about the state of CCTV in the town. We are, particularly on the new graveyard experience, very high levels of vandalism. And the recreation ground, yes. So really, if people could be nudged to write back, well, I'll nudge them tomorrow. Yeah.
So CCTV and a briefing, please. And my other suggestion is section 106. And I know it's there, but in olden days, I'm only 23. So what we used to have a continual update to the planning committee of section 106, and what it was, say, Ullathorpe, 20 grand to be spent by December 26. Do you remember that, Amanda? Well, we used to have some coming on. Christine Sacarayo used to do them and present them, and then we could see where and whatever, and I think it's still somewhere on the website, but it's difficult to find, and I'm finding the website. That's another thing now. So section 106, how we can, not only improve it, how we can spend it. I think a review on scrutiny would be really welcome, and in my opinion, looking at the website, how easy it is to access, because I'm finding it very, very difficult to access, and so do residents. But I'm an IT Luddite and I see what other people think.
Councillor Scott.
On in reference to S106, I've recently written to Councillor Burrell as chair of the planning committee to consider having an item about S106 on that and a review and an update, a continual update to us. I read back in, I think it was the SPD document on the webpage and some other documents I found deep on the internet within Harbour's sort of a hoard of documents, and it was done at one time. So reports were made back to planning about S106. I'd like that reviewed and reinstated.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Chair. No, I wholeheartedly support a Section 106 report coming here. I mean, in the light of the apparent, and I've not got too many details, the apparent loss of a very large sum up at Great Glen. And I hope it won't be a loss, but there's no other information at present other than it expired and that's it. And some longer term members will know that many years ago we got a regular list, and I'm sure it was at least quarterly or half yearly. I think that all members need to again receive at least, I would say 6 monthly, because Section 106, you know, the overall list doesn't change that often. There's not that many major or medium housing developments passed in wards such that there's massive changes, and the years for some of the bigger amounts are 10, 15 years. So I'm not even sure we need to get a report every 3 months, but I think annually is probably not good enough. I would suggest every 6 months every member ought to be sent the same report, such that it doesn't have to be split 34 ways. That's a lot of work for officers. Just get the overall summary of all Section 106 balances, all the expiry dates, clearly down as each ward, and sent to all members. Because had I been a councillor in Great Glen, seeing a 6 monthly report saying 800 grand expiring in 3 years, 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1, I would not have sat on my bottom and just read that and just filed it away. I would have been acting, and I'm assuming the members did, but I think it's a lot more complicated. That's an incredibly simplistic angle. But I mean, not just members, but officers, local parish members, and it's I can't fathom how 800 grand or whatever it is has just been lost to the overall community. So I think that's really important. Secondly, I think that we ought to be pulling to this committee a review of the 1 million annual spend of community grants. I don't think there's any particular issues to look at there. However, the speed of spend is potentially something that some members have been concerned about. Whether there have been enough applications to the £1 million grant. Certainly in my own community, there was little work through the parish for about a year, and then what was decided upon was a couple of minibuses to spend the entire amount, which is a relatively easy spend.
That's on the other committee's work plan.
Ah, okay. So
it's not on this.
Fine. If it's not listed on this document, then
due for consideration on the 30th of October.
It might be helpful, Chair, if we're given a copy of what the other plan is for this reason, because I've just rambled on about it. It's not been relevant, but I thoroughly support Sarah Hamilton's comments about a more accurate scope. So, for example, for Section 106, I do think that we should look at current and past member notifications. So, in other words, many years ago, we got a regular update. What the processes are, has there been an internal audit in the last few years on the processes? Are any other amounts been lost? Anyway, so I'm sure other members can come up with some scoping suggestions of that, but maybe some alternative options could be looked at for notifying members. I'll finish there.
Councillor Moder.
I was waiting very patiently, Mark. I was just going to confirm that, yes, it was quarterly. We did receive a little sort of page at the back and it was sort of explained, in detail what was going where. It was really, back then, it was a case of there were developments because we didn't have the 5-year housing supply back then. So there were major developments, and that's happening now again. So it would be really sort of, important to have that to go out to all members, because it affects all of us, so that we know what's in the pipeline when it's in the pipeline. So we're talking to our communities, because it's really important to them, not just to have the houses, but to have something to go with it.
So just to clarify, because I think Councillor Scott, you're probably going to come back on S106 in a moment. So in terms of the scope of that, are we requesting that we want to report it detailing what S106 money there is in the pipeline, and we want to know that as a would that be something you mentioned, a list? Is that something you just want in terms of a physical copy, or do we want to scrutinise that?
No, it used to be a copy that we could then look to see what our ward was.
I think it came from the Section 106 officer.
Did it come from Christine?
I think it came direct. I think it came direct by email to each member. So it was a list of all the Section 106 outstanding and what it was being spent on. I don't think it actually came to planning as part of the plan.
No. Just really briefly.
Sorry, just one
direct email.
I'm just trying to gauge the scope of what
Yeah.
we would be called.
That was my comment.
Scrutiny. Because if it's a case that we just want the list, that is something that obviously we can request. But I think some comments were about further things, about delays potentially, and about Section 106 money elapsing.
But the list also needs to include, because I'm having.
Sorry. Councillor Mrs. Baker, Councillor Scott has had his hand up for quite some time.
I'd like to come back to Councillor Graves. In terms of, he mentioned Great Glen in particular. It was noted, and it's on record in December of last year, that the council leader actually mentioned in particular the S106 grants, and he was totally aware of the dates and the sell-by dates basically of the S106, and that's on record. I think it would be helpful if Section 106 grant applications at the time someone is looking at that particular subcommittee actually had more information as to when things were expiring, how much it was decreasing down, the S106 pot was decreasing, and other information. So you said you wanted to have more than just a list. And I think from the scrutiny point of view, you need more than a list. The list doesn't tell you the real nitty gritty, the core details of that. So that's important.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Graves had his hand up first. Sorry.
Thank you. I'll try and be brief. Just a few quick points. Firstly, I think that if we were meeting here at a future meeting date and we had the whole list in front of us, I think that would be really valuable, because we would be looking at it and we'd be starting to notice, oh, there's a short date on that one, there's a short date in that community, there's 75 grand of cemetery expenditure there with a shortish date on. And I mentioned cemetery specifically because Broughton Astley at one point had something like £50,000, 55 grand, that had been allocated through the full reporting structure of the planning department and Section 106, and the parish's response was, we have no need and we have no idea what to spend it on. And so all sorts of schemes were produced for gazebos or pergolas, or there's a perfectly good wall, but maybe the water's chipping off a little bit, so why don't we demolish it and rebuild it? And there was just this amazement that there was so much money there. So that was a very, very odd allocation of funds. So I do think it's beneficial. Now, the other important point regarding Great Glen, or regarding anyway, it doesn't have to be Great Glen, if there has been a loss, I'm assuming that there has been, or there's in the process of some sort of review or investigation into Great Glen. I think it would be advisable if the results of that or the investigation came here, because I think this committee of councillors could make some really good comments on how to change things in future or how to put some better monitoring in place as members, or even suggestions for officers, so that we try and prevent this. But I think we all know that Section 106 can be very long dated projects, that if something's got 6 months to go, you may already be too late in that, you know, you've got to get planning permission, you've got to get some huge legal agreement signed or whatever. But anyway, it's just a suggestion that I think that we would be doing our job properly if we reviewed some sort of Great Glen review report.
Yes, please.
Okay. There's been some things said that I wasn't aware that, but there we go. Everybody was aware of, but there we go. So at the minute, a Section 106 review, sorry, not review, audit is being undertaken as part of the routine programme of audit that was agreed months ago. Also, there is an investigation or review going on into the Great Glen process, issue, whatever it was you want to call it, and they will be reported. Now, whether they will be reported separately or not is yet to be decided, because I might direct that as we're having the 106 review programmed audit being done anyway, that the Great Glen is sort of appended to it and put it into one report, because it would make more sense, to be perfectly honest. But that report will go to audit committee. So we are using internal audit for that process, and that is the right place for that report to go to. Now, of course, it's Councillor Clare's discretion as chair of audit committee if he would like to invite other members to that meeting and come to speak. That's at Councillor Clare's discretion. But that is what is happening and is going forward. Okay.
Thank you, Clive. If I could pass to Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. I'm just getting a little bit confused. Are we debating what we'd like to put on the work plan?
Yes.
Because I'm just aware that I'm substituting for Councillor Foreman. There's a lot of substitutions tonight, and I don't feel comfortable in just us making that decision. I wonder whether it needs to go out for suggestions and then to go a different way, because we're also, I think we're going off into debate as well. So I think can we just be clear of what are the ideas we're putting forward for the work plan, and then what else needs to then be debated with people there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Taylor. So, I mean, at the moment, what we've got is that we would like the CCTV monitoring to be, obviously, that is on the work plan on the 19th of March, as it is. By the looks of it, we've obviously got some form of S106 report that we want. I'm still vague as to what the scope would be, in terms of other than just a list of the S106. I mean,
very briefly, I'm conscious that if the internal audit and the potential add-on of the Great Glen issue is going to audit and standards, audit and governance, that may be a different remit to what we're interested in. The bit that I think this committee may want to know about, and it might not be in that one, is notification to members' desires as to how often they want to be notified, that sort of thing. So if it's not in that, that's something that we could request, but I don't want to duplicate, but I'm conscious that scrutiny is different to audit, internal audit.
Yeah. Would that be something that could be covered by a member's briefing? Because it sounds like a communication, us getting more information.
I mean, do you know what? I think, and Clive Mason's the pair of ears I'm directing this to, really. I think that if the current database of Section 106 amounts were to be fairly promptly distributed to all councillors, I don't think there's a confidential issue, because I think everyone is a public document. I think that could generate a whole variety of questions that could enrich the debate going forward.
And that was kind of the reason why I'm trying to gauge this scope, because if it's initially just a list we want, we could get that, have a members briefing potentially at the work that S106 is doing at the moment, and then we could move forward from that.
And I agree. I think if that were done with a little briefing note saying here it is, just a few points to note, blah blah blah, then the points would come back at a future one of these panels.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, the criteria is very important, but just to add, because I've got another suggestion, and the it is somewhere on the website, but it's very, very difficult to find. So that might want to be looked at, because I do know it, well, it was on the website. So, you know, might have to look at how members can access it easily on the website. I like to move on and Chairman, just for reassurance for Councillor Taylor, we're also substitutes, and while we're here, we can make that decision. Sorry, Councillor Foreman, you missed out. You're not here. So, two for consideration ideas. One, it is one thing I've always wanted to know or scrutinise. It is the UK Prosperity Fund. So what is, and I know sometimes on the business it says, oh, you can apply for £2,000 for this and that. But who decides? They're postcards now, all of a sudden, with Harbour picture and biscuits with Harbour on. So who decides how the money is spent? What's the process of the spending? How much is delegated power to that? And how are the outcome measured? So if you have a UK Prosperity Fund, right, you've got to businesses, you know, from the thing, it's supposed to be promoting businesses and things. So how's the outcome measured?
And the geographic spread.
You know.
Sorry, the Councillor, Mrs. Page, it's on the agenda for the other scrutiny on the
Good. Then,
sorry,
okay,
I do
then
apologise.
I have got another one, and then I hold my peace, not to sound like Councillor.
I am thinking of Lifeline.
Is that on the agenda somewhere as well?
Community engagement.
Because we have got a nice little van now with a coffee machine that goes around, and it says, you know, it's supposed to do community engagement.
Community engagement would come under the other scrutiny panel as it's communities.
Okay,
So,
but put it on then. But that, I think it's very important. How do we effectively use that van? And how do we engage more effectively? And how do we assimilate the outcomes? And I'm done.
Thank you. Can I just come back to you though? We talked about Lifeline earlier. I think looking at the plan, it might be best if we move the CCTV forwards and then have a look at Lifeline, as you mentioned earlier, but we just need to clarify the scope of any kind of reporting to that.
The Lifeline, we also used to promote, because, for instance, we've had, and there hasn't been any promotion because people signing up has dropped off. You know, buying the pen for £3.75 a week. Well, oh, it's £5 now. It's gone up. She's had one. Anyway, so the point was, would be great to build that into our community engagement. Like at Lutterworth, we had a community event. You know, again, was at the leisure centre, and our community safety, Diane and Lee turned up. But when lots of old people are going to elderly residents going to one of these events, it would have been great to have Lifeline there to promote what.
Give them out.
Well, no, but what we have got. You know, we've got other adaptations, and you know. Anyway,
thank you.
I want to go to the floor.
I'll go to Councillor Graves and I'll come back to Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick comment. Could we be sent in the next few days just a summary description of what goes or is meant to come to this committee and what's meant to go to the other one? I mean, we could say that everything is communities based because it's based in our communities. but then ultimately everything has money, and there are performance indicators for absolutely everything. So you've got two sides of the coin there. So I think Lifeline, maybe that should be a communities issue. Why is it coming to this one? So I think we need to be sent the clarification, because what we want to do is even out the reports going to. We don't want 7 reports go to the other one and 2 come here.
But Sarah used to do that, didn't you?
So, I mean, in terms of Lifeline, it will be looking at the service that they provide and how that has performed, because we are looking at service and performance. In terms of the promotion and the engagement with the community, it would go to the other scrutiny committee. Sorry, I'll just go to Rachel. Sorry.
Thank you. I'll just pop in the chat to this meeting the link to the website where there's a list of all Section 106s that are available, with the dates, expiry dates, the parishes and everything. I'm just sending you I'll put on the Teams. I can email it to you. Yeah. I'll drop it in the chat anyway for those who want to pick it up, and then I'll email it to you tomorrow. Thanks, Grace.
Point of information, Sarah will tell you, before what we used to have was the work plan with all of the things, and it went to all of them, so you could see, couldn't you? And if you do that again, it would be,
Yeah, sorry, that was that had happened previously, but this report didn't, so I'll make sure that you see both panels' work plans so you can see. But I think just to reiterate, we do need the scope. So if this committee, if this panel wants to consider Lifeline, it would then, the review would need to focus on either the corporate or the performance issues, because that would make logical sense. Otherwise, if it was more linked to a sort of community side of things, it would be more appropriate for you to consider by.
Chair, I would be happy for you to recommend a scope with your knowledge and your access to officers. You can check it with them that it's doable, timely, smart, achievable, whatever. I'd be happy for you to liaise and recommend to us in your role as chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, so I mean, just in terms of the work plan then moving forward, if we move the CCTV monitoring update and options forward to the 11th of December meeting, and I will finalise the details for a look at Lifeline for a date, probably the 19th of March or later. Are we in agreement?
Are we, you raised about the UK SPF, sorry, was that on the other?
That's on the other committees.
Could we be sent a complete list of both committees' reviews then? Because I'm just feeling it's a bit lopsided
Yes,
at the
I'll
moment.
do that.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, early next week. So just so you know what the scope of that report is. So that is being considered by the Service and Communities panel on the 5th of February next year. And it is, the scope is to review the projects that have been delivered using funding from UK SPF and the Rural Prosperity Fund, and assess the success of those projects.
Councillor Scott.
I think it's really clarification. I'm a fairly new councillor, well, I'm a new councillor, and which goes to which group, it seems it's very unclear to me. It seems like splitting hairs, to be honest. I mean, corporate and performance, you're looking at a performance of the body. So we're looking at that, and we decided to like Lifeline, and something else is going, and it's not communities.
Yeah. So a lot of what was agreed that would be on the work plan was done in a joint scrutiny committee at the start of this. The end of last financial year, it was in March, wasn't it? Last financial year. So that's what, at that point, we decided that this would be more suited towards communities and this will be more suited towards performance. So that's why we've kind of got this legacy of that's on that panel, this is on this panel. We have got a joint scrutiny panel coming up. So obviously, as a member of this group, we would get together and we would look at the items on the agenda, and in the future we would look at the work plan moving forward for both groups. But that's why we've got it the way it is, and hopefully we will get something disseminated so that you're familiar with why on which work plan.
Thanks very much for the explanation.
What's the date of that combined scrutiny work plan?
30th of October. No, oh, the work plan. The work plan one will be in April, sorry.
23rd of April is the scrutiny work plan meeting.
And that's not on the councillor card, or is it?
It should be.
Oh, it should be. Oh, I've missed that one. Then so 23rd of April, I'll be invited to a committee meeting.
Yeah, and also just for information, so there is a joint scrutiny panel on the 22nd of January, which is looking at the budget for 2026-27 and the medium-term financial strategy. So again, that's a joint panel.
What date was that, sorry?
The 22nd of January.
Oh, I've not got that one in. Okay.
Yeah, so it's on. So in the report that's been sent to you, Councillor Graves, on the work plan, it lists the joint panels in there, just so that you've got those for reference.
It's on an email on the 15th of September, but 2:55.
It's the 16th.
Yes, yeah.
It's on the 22nd and not the 23rd again.
We move. Happy birthday in advance. Any other business? Final item on the agenda, I believe. Any other business? Councillor Clive, would you like to come in at this point?
So, to everybody around the table, I'd first of all like to apologise for the confusion with the papers earlier. We will get that sorted, and that will not be a repeat. Okay, so Leah and I have already chatted tonight, and we will get that sorted. Okay, I don't think I know why there was a best intention, but we'll come back to you. We'll let you know how that's going to progress. Okay, so just wanted to once again apologise for all that. So, thank you.
Thank you for that, Clive. Thank you for all the information that was provided. I appreciate we were trying to do something different. And sometimes you have to try that to see what works and what doesn't. And I think we're in agreement there. But thank you again for everybody who's contributed. Thank you to all the members. And the next meeting of the joint overview and scrutiny panel is the 30th of October, and it's looking at the local government reorganisation submission, which I'm sure everybody's interested in. So thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Meeting adjourned.